Your brain can erase a clear intention before you even cross the room. You stand up knowing exactly what you need to do, and then it suddenly vanishes. You reach the next room and stare around as if the answer should be waiting there. For a few seconds, you search your mind, but nothing seems willing to return. Then you retrace your steps, and the missing thought appears almost instantly. These moments feel so strange that many men quietly fear their memory is fading. Some even test themselves later because they worry something deeper is going wrong. But psychology reveals that this mental blank is often not a memory failure at all. It may happen because an active brain changes focus faster than intention can follow. And the final reason may completely change how you see your own forgetfulness. Most men assume they simply forgot what they were about to do. But psychologists discovered that your brain may be doing something far more surprising. The moment you leave one environment, your mind quietly begins creating a new mental chapter. What belonged to the previous moment suddenly becomes much harder to reach. Researchers often call this the doorway effect because simple transitions change mental context. The intention itself may still exist even though you cannot immediately retrieve it. That explains why walking back often makes the forgotten thought instantly return. Your memory was never completely erased because the right cue simply disappeared. The brain constantly depends on context to know which information matters right now. A different room silently tells your mind that one moment has already ended. Without realizing it, your attention begins organizing new sight sounds and possibilities. The original intention becomes buried beneath everything your brain is processing next. This happens to millions of men and says surprisingly little about intelligence or memory. But physical doorways are only the beginning of what interrupts your thoughts. The next reason explains why your own mind creates invisible doorways every single day. But your home is no longer the only place where your thoughts quietly disappear. Modern life forces your brain through dozens of invisible doorways every single hour. You unlock your phone and a notification instantly replaces your original intention. One message leads to another until the first thought quietly fades into the background. You open a browser tab, then another, until you forget what started the search. Every interruption asks your brain to decide what deserves attention right now. The more often your focus changes, the harder unfinished intentions become to retrieve. Men with highly active minds often generate several new ideas from one simple thought. While one part of the brain remembers the task, another is already solving something else. That constant competition quietly pushes ordinary intentions out of awareness. This does not mean your memory is weak, because your attention has simply moved. The busier your internal world becomes, the easier small intentions are temporarily displaced. Ironically, the mind searching for more answers can lose the simplest questions first. A distraction alone cannot explain why forgotten thoughts suddenly return without warning. The next reason reveals what your brain was doing while you thought nothing was happening. But here is the part almost every man completely misunderstands about these forgotten moments. Your intention may never have become a real memory in the first place. Many thoughts pass through your mind without receiving enough attention to be stored. You tell yourself to grab your keys, then another idea instantly takes control. Before your brain finishes recording the intention, your focus quietly moves somewhere else. Psychologists call this an encoding problem rather than a retrieval problem. You cannot fully remember something your brain never completely saved. That is why familiar routines create these strange mental blanks so often. Automatic habits need very little attention, which leaves brief intentions surprisingly fragile. The mind protects information that feels meaningful and filters what seems ordinary. One important problem can easily push 3 small intentions out of awareness. This is why complicated ideas often survive while simple everyday tasks disappear. You are not forgetting because your brain has become careless or unreliable. Your attention simply chose another priority before the memory could settle. The next reason reveals what your brain always protects before everything else. Here is the surprising truth: your brain values attention more than perfect memory every day. It constantly decides which thoughts deserve space and which ones can quietly wait. The ideas carrying emotion, purpose, or danger usually stay at the front of your mind. Small everyday intentions often lose that competition without you ever noticing. While you worry about forgetting, your brain may already be solving something more important. That is why difficult problems often remain clear while simple tasks suddenly disappear. Men who spend long hours planning, analyzing, and solving problems experience this more often. Their minds constantly jump between possibilities before one intention fully settles. This does not prove someone is more intelligent, but it can reflect a heavily loaded mind. The brain protects what feels meaningful instead of everything that briefly appears. It sacrifices small details to preserve larger patterns and important priorities. That decision happens automatically long before you become aware of it. What feels like forgetfulness may actually be selective attention doing its job. But one mistake makes these moments feel far worse than they really are. The next reason explains why panic can make a forgotten thought disappear even longer. But the biggest mistake begins after the thought suddenly disappears from your mind. Most men immediately panic and start believing something is seriously wrong. The harder you force yourself to remember, the further the answer seems to drift away. That pressure steals attention. Your brain needs to rebuild the missing mental pathway. Instead of recreating the original moment, your mind becomes trapped in frustration. Then something unexpected happens the instant you stop searching so intensely. You walk back to the previous room, and the forgotten intention suddenly returns. Your memory was waiting for the right context instead of disappearing forever. The brain retrieves information far better through familiar cues than pure effort. That is why retracing your steps often works better than trying harder. Understanding this changes frustration into confidence instead of self-doubt. You stop treating every forgotten thought as evidence that your memory is failing. You begin trusting the way your brain naturally stores and retrieves intentions. What once felt frightening becomes surprisingly predictable and understandable. The final reason reveals why these moments may completely change how you see your own mind. The next time you forget what you were about to do, do not assume your memory is failing. Remember that attention shapes memory long before recall ever has a chance to begin. Your brain protects what feels meaningful while filtering countless small intentions each day. That does not make you forgetful, because it makes you deeply human instead. Sometimes, the busiest minds simply lose track of ordinary thoughts for a brief moment. Understanding this replaces fear with confidence instead of constant self-doubt. You begin trusting your mind instead of questioning every forgotten intention. That simple perspective can completely change how you see everyday mental blanks. Subscribe for more psychology videos that reveal the hidden patterns behind human behavior. You may understand your own mind far better than you ever imagined.